guys are live.
We're live?
Yes.
Awesome. Never been live before. All right, maybe once. Okay, well, hi everybody. My name's Josh Matthews. I'm a vice president at Robert Half Technology. We're in the branch for Portland for our technology staffing services. That includes RHT, IT Search, which is our direct placement or full-time firm placement division, and also TCG, also known as the Creative Group, where we place marketing and advertising professionals. I'm here today to just try and hopefully share some information that I've learned over the years that can help you in the job market. So with that in mind, we'll go ahead and jump right in. Who here has worked with a recruiter before? I tried. Okay. What happened? Didn't get back to you. All right, that's terrible stuff. It does happen from time to time. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Anyone here have a good experience with a recruiter? No. Okay, no, let's just say for the record, no experience, so it's not quite the same thing. All right, we're going to talk about working with recruiters. We're going to talk about resume basics. We're going to talk about phone interviews, the in-person interview, and then just some general tips to help you land your first gig or in general make yourself a better candidate in the market. So let's just start with working with recruiters. A little bit about me and the company that I work with. I work with, as I said, Robert Half. Robert Half is the world's largest and oldest specialized staffing firm. It's about $5 billion a year. We're generally right around the 500 mark on the Fortune 500 list. I run Oregon and Southern Washington. We have 400 locations around the world. About 100 of those have technology staffing, maybe about 120 or so have technology staffing services in them. Our motto is ethics first. So we work really hard to try and identify great talent, help those individuals land jobs with the great clients that we serve. And we do a lot of different work. We do, like I said, contract to hire. So contract's just limited duration projects. Contract to hire, where they get to try before they buy. Same for you. It's a little bit like dating and then getting married. And then just jumping in feet first with the full-time employment as well. Let's go ahead and switch to the next screen if we can. Thank you. Okay, so top tips for working with recruiters. So the number one thing is to work with specialized staffing firms. Robert Half is not the only staffing firm in the world. There are a number of organizations here in Portland that are good, reputable companies, and I certainly encourage people, when you register with staffing firm, to register with more than one. But I would be careful to focus on the organizations that specialize in the work that you do. So if you're a developer, work with a technology staffing firm. I wouldn't be working with companies that just focus on administrative professionals or are generalists in general. Okay, they're going to have clients that are more in line and hiring for your skill sets in general. Working with experienced recruiters, same thing. There's a lot of options out there. If you're going to buy a house, you can work with any realtor and they all cost about the same. Some are really good, some not so much. You can work with Aunt Jenny, who sells 2 houses a year. You can work with Martha, who does 50 houses a year. I'd rather work with Martha. Clearly she knows what she's doing. So it's the same idea. Just work with experienced and reputable staffing firms and experienced and reputable recruiters as well. Number 3, remember who pays for the service. So who pays for a recruiter? Yeah, the company, the employer. They pay for the recruiter, and they pay for the service. And so with that in mind, it's really important that you understand that when you're working with a recruiter, there's no exchange of money between you guys, and consequently, you should just try and treat them with respect. It's not like, hey, you didn't make my sandwich the right way, and you get angry with them. There's no requirement for any recruiter to work with anyone, particularly if they're not treated well. And trust me, there's a lot of people. I've sat down with a number of folks in the interview booth and talked to them, and had people be really arrogant where they say, hey, look, the way I look at it is you work for me and you want to place me and you're going to make money off of me, and so this is what I expect and this is what I demand, and I promise you those folks don't get placed. They just don't, because it's not nice, it's not kind, it's not polite, and we are all looking at people's communication skills and skill sets from the moment we talk to you on the telephone or that first email that you sent across, all the way through to offer acceptance and right up until your very first day of work, okay? We're all paying attention. Are you communicating well? Are you following through in a timely manner? Are you polite to whoever's greeted you at the front of the office? And so just be nice. Just be nice people. You'll be fine. All right. Staying in touch is your job. So this gentleman, you shared that the recruiter never got back to you. Okay, that's a disappointment. Now, did you interview with that recruiter?
No, I just had a conversation with him and I reached out to him on LinkedIn afterwards.
Okay.
I
Just didn't hear back. Okay. All right. That does happen from time to time. I can tell you with my staff, each member of my staff that is a recruiter interviews somewhere between 500 and 700 people a year. It's a lot of people to have to stay in touch with, right? And they absolutely can't. They can't be reaching out to 300-400 people a week or 200 people a week. They just never have time to interview anybody. That doesn't mean that they shouldn't do a good job and follow through and follow up with you. So my recommendation is if you get an interview with a recruiter, the very best thing that you can do is make it your job to stay in touch with them. And let's say you've interviewed with 3 different recruiters. I would just have a calendar event to reach out about every 5 to 10 days, shoot them an email. It can be just real simple. Like, hey Josh, just wanted to let you know I've interviewed at 2 companies this week. They didn't result in a job, but I'm still looking for work. No need to respond. That's the key. No need to respond, but just wanted to let you know I'm still available. It's so important to do this. Okay, why would it be important to do this?
To be remembered.
Yeah, to be remembered. When we stand up, and we stand up at board meetings twice a day, and we talk about the jobs, and we talk about candidates for those jobs, whoever is on top of mind is usually going to be someone that gets discussed, right? So if you interviewed 4 months ago, and then you never wrote to the recruiter again, maybe they've left you a couple phone calls, maybe you responded, maybe you didn't. It's just not as likely to be mentioned that day as if you'd shot them an email a few days before. And then saying, hey, no need to respond, that just takes the pressure off of them. They'll probably respond. I always do. I always try and get back to everyone within 24 hours. They'll probably respond, but it's so nice when you don't make more work for them. Okay? One thing you definitely don't want to do is to harry the recruiter. Right? Don't bug them. Don't bother them. If you've left 3 or 4 messages and no one's calling back, go ahead and reach out to someone else in the organization, or you can reach out to their manager and talk about, hey, I'm a little disappointed I reached out, I never heard back from them. It happens from time to time, but if someone's not responding to you over and over again, I would probably move on and just work with a different company or with a different recruiter. Does that make sense? Okay. All right. Keep track of interviews and applications. Again, Excel's your friend, guys. Just track this stuff. Something happens in the job market where we work with a variety of companies, some of them very large, some of them really small. And if we submit a candidate, let's say, what's your name? Mouthful of pizza? James. Okay, James. Let's say you say, hey, Josh, I want to apply for this job. I said, great. You say, this company is XYZ company. Have you applied there before? You say, I don't think so. And I go ahead and submit you for the job. And then that client says, hey, Josh, James already applied to this job last week. The impression that the client now has is, we don't know what we're talking about, and we're not asking you basic questions, or that you don't know how to write down where you apply. And that's probably not the kind of individual they want to hire. And you won't get that job. You just won't get the job. Okay? So, I mean, unless you're absolutely incredible and amazing, somehow can spin it. But the reality is you probably won't get that job. All right? So keep track of every apply. And it's easy to forget to do this when you're on LinkedIn. You're click apply, one click apply, click, 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 click. You just got to track that stuff, guys. It's going to make you appear a lot more respectable, and more than anything, it's just going to prevent disaster from happening. And it does happen, and it happens more than it should. All right, we already talked about that. Okay, take the advice. When you sit down with a staffing professional, they usually have some advice for you. My recommendation when it comes to advice is to try to find one great source and follow that source for advice. When you start mixing and matching, it gets real confusing. I'll give you an example. Years ago, I used to play golf. I'm a terrible, terrible golfer. My wife got me a magazine, and it was whatever, just like a golfer magazine. And at the beginning of the magazine was an article, tee higher for longer drives. That just means put your little tee in the grass a little bit taller and your ball will go farther. And then at the back of the magazine was another article. Does anybody want to guess what it said?
Tee lower.
Tee lower for longer drives. I can't believe, I mean, the editor should have a talking to for sure. But the reality is it just, everyone's got an opinion. Everyone's got some advice. My recommendation is take the advice from the professionals, right? Your brother who is a software developer might know about software development, but is probably not an expert in resumes or in interviewing skills, right? But a staffing professional who's been doing it for years, who works for a reputable organization, probably is. So I would choose that person to take the advice from. Right? You'll hear people say, "Oh, just have a one-page resume." It's great if you're in high school, but it's probably not great if you're in the professional world anymore. Things like that. So just be careful of where you're taking your advice from. Okay, social media. Who's on social media? Raise your hand. Kinda on social media. Okay. Could everybody raise your hand if you're on LinkedIn? Oh, that's good. That's a pretty good turn. All right, I didn't quite see how many here. Just raise your hand if you're not. One. All right, we'll talk later. I don't want to bore. I don't want to bore everybody, but basically, be on LinkedIn. Have a professional resume. Have a really good quality picture, right? Preferably not you and your ex-partner with them cut off with their shoulder and their cheek in it, right? Or you with like a tiger, things like that. Just have a good professional photo. It doesn't have to be professional, but a nice headshot. And what should we be doing in this headshot? Smile. Smile. I'm actually not smiling in mine. I got to fix it. But yeah, you should be smiling. Look like a friendly, approachable person, and just make sure it's not too weird. You know, the picture of your back with your dog on a cliff looking out into the wilderness, I don't know, save it for a different site, but probably not LinkedIn, right? Just keep it approachable and friendly. Make sure that you're connecting with as many people as you know in the industry. Your connections do matter. A lot of people are finding opportunities just through the people that they know, and so I certainly encourage that. And then I'd also encourage you too to make sure that your resume matches your LinkedIn profile, right? Make sure that the dates are the same. Go through it with a fine-tooth comb. Make sure that it doesn't beg any questions. Does that make sense? Okay. Who here is a troll? Everyone's snickering. Everyone live is going to think I'm just doing like these dead flat jokes. Come on, people. Thanks a lot. Look, I'm going to say this because it's really important, and I've talked about this sort of thing with enough groups of people that I think it does matter, and hopefully it can help at least one or two people from time to time to know this. Your social media, you can be found. Right? We can Google you, and we can find out what you're all about. If you participate in Reddit sites or chat rooms, or you have extremely strong opinions about things, it's perfectly okay. But just be aware that employers might be looking to find out what they can about you, and you might be exposing yourself in a way, or presenting yourself to the world in a way that the company might think is unbecoming of an employee of theirs. Does that make sense? Okay, so I don't have to say more than that. Just proceed with caution. It's okay to have strong opinions. It's okay to voice those opinions. Just be careful. That's all. All right. Okay, 15 seconds to make an impression with your resume. Did anybody bring their resume today? No? Okay. Well, when I get a resume, I'll just pretend that this is a resume. When I get a resume, this is literally about how long it takes me to decide whether or not I want to look at it in more detail, or just move on. And it looks like this. That's it. Okay. So when you've interviewed 7, 8, 9,000 people, you get pretty good at it, right? You get really quick. That means that the style in which it's presented, the information that is presented, and the content of that information has to hit at the right spots at the right time for that person like me to quickly read it. And also, I'll answer it in just one moment. And also, it needs to be readable for someone who is very technical, and also someone who might be, $13 an hour contract HR personnel who's been hired to just scan, review resumes for someone who has no idea anything about technology at all, right? Okay, you have a question?
Yeah, I just wondered for you and maybe other recruiters, what should a resume look like to make you spend more than 15 seconds?
Next slide, please. Okay, so the question is, what should a resume look like? So here's a resume that I mostly like. I don't absolutely adore it. I give it like a B+, and it can be a little bit hard to see. I can make some of these slides available to you if that's going to be easier, if you want to refer to it, but certainly feel free to take a foot. What did I do?
It's over here. I'll just clear out.
Okay, thank you. All right. So a good resume, just the basics. You're going to have your name. Underneath your name, you'll have your contact information. We had someone apply for a job yesterday. Very highly skilled employee, no phone number. That's silly, right? So have your email address, have your phone number, and I deleted it off of John Doe, but I would also have a hyperlink to your LinkedIn profile. They're going to look. Just make it easier on them, right? Does that make sense? You just click, it says LinkedIn, and it's just hyperlinked. You don't have to have the full-on long URL. Most people aren't looking at paper resumes anyway. They're just reviewing them online. It's good to have the city that you live in. Don't know if you need to put your address anymore. No one needs to know your apartment number or Google Fly right up to your front door and see what your porch looks like, right? So it's just not critical anymore. So that's the basic stuff. And then at the top, what I like about John Doe's resume here is it said software/database developer. Just tell them what you do. Tell them right away. There's a lot of resumes that come in, and it's just like, you don't know until down here that someone's a software engineer or a developer or a sandwich artist, right? You just don't know. So tell them, sandwich artist/software engineer, right up at the top. The other thing that you can do is you can describe, and I have probably better example. Oh, well, actually, I'm just going to see it. So solution-driven application designer, software scripting specialist, high security applications, internet development, medical informatics, electronic medical records. So pretty obvious what this person specializes in, right? And what their interest is in. And it doesn't have to just be one thing, right? For you who are starting out, it could be as simple as junior web developer, and then whatever you want to do, JavaScript, C#, like whatever it is that your main focus is, okay? Here we have career summary. Respected self-managed and resourceful programmer/software developer, 13 plus years of software and database development, website design and project leadership success, and then some bullet points about what they do. I'll tell you, I don't love, this is where it's okay. It's just okay. It's like a B. All right. What we really want is for you to describe the value that you're going to bring to a client. What you should never have is, I'm looking for a challenging position with a respected company where I can learn and develop my skill sets and have 5 weeks vacation a year and work from home and sit in an Eames chair and have ping pong and free kombucha. Like, you don't want to say things like that. You got to make it not about you. You got to make it about what you're going to bring to the party, right? So for those things, how did you solve a problem? How did you add value or save money or bring in revenue? Deliver something on time or under budget, right? What's the value that you have? Does anyone have real life examples from your own life that you can share? Yes?
So I did a project, I managed a project for a company in Canada.
Okay.
And I wrote a couple of government grants to help them get some research money.
Terrific.
And we were successful, so we got about 500,000.
Fantastic. We're going to talk about that in just a little bit, about what she shared. So she did research grants. It was to get funding. It was successful, and the value is $500,000. So we'll use that as an example in the next slide here, probably.
Should that go in the career summary? Because I actually have that in the experience.
Yeah, no, that's fine to be in the the experience. But you can say, you can talk about whatever you want to, as long as you're bringing value. The main thing is to avoid talking about what you want from the company, okay, and more about what you're going to bring to the company. Does anybody have another example of something you've done, or how you would, who here knows how they would contribute to a software development company right now? No, you're all in a technology school to learn software development. This is probably something you're going to want to be able to answer. Are you just too shy to share in front of the class? One guy's nodding. He's the least shy. He's the least shy of all of you, by the way. Okay, yes.
So I programmed in 6 programming languages, and
Okay.
I'm now learning Python
Okay,
and data science and data analytics.
okay,
So if I find a company that's willing to take me on as I'm learning, I would say that I work quickly, I learn quickly, I can help them reach their bottom line, their goals.
yes. That's not so hard, right? Who here thinks that they're a quick learner, quick study? Most of you? Okay. Who here thinks that they're, and I want to see hands all the way up in the air for this one. Who here thinks that they apply themselves diligently? Who here is a hard worker? Raise your hand way up in the air. Okay, good. So you can say that you're a hard worker. Who here is willing to put in more than 40 hours a week to get the job done? Raise your hand really high. Okay, good. Who here likes to drink a lot of coffee and just crank out code? Raise your hand. Okay, you guys will get jobs. I'm just teasing. So you get to talk about your attributes, particularly when you're new to the industry, right? And you're a junior developer. You get to talk about the attributes that you bring to the party, if not the experience, because most of you are going to lack a lot of experience until you get internships or those first jobs. So that's okay. They know that. They're going to compensate you accordingly. So you get to talk. Everyone here looks like you've had a job before. Is that correct? I'm not calling you old. Okay. So think about some of the things that you did at this job that you had before, and what positive thing your manager might say about you, right? And write that down. And then you can include that in not career summary, right? But just like what you bring to the party, just your overall statement about what kind of an employee you are. You get to talk about what kind of employee you are. Who here thinks that they're a good employee? Okay. Raise your hand if you think you're not a very good employee. Okay, so why did some people not raise their hand on both?
I was waiting for you to say great.
What's that?
I was waiting for you to say great.
I love it. Okay, that's really good. That's really good. So if you're a good employee, right, and you have good references, and it doesn't matter what industry you were in. Hannah and I were talking a little bit earlier during the podcast about, hey, you could pump gas, you could be a barista. It doesn't matter. Work construction. I've done a couple of those jobs myself, right? Then you get to talk about what those qualities are of you as a person. Let's keep moving on. One thing I do like about this is it's pretty legible, pretty easy to read. We've got programming languages and software. You can include any kind of technology information here. You guys would also want your education. Your education for your resumes should probably be paramount. Just come right underneath career summary, because that's going to be the most relevant, probably where you have most of your, it's going to be the highlight, right? It's going to be the trigger for the client to think, oh yeah, this is someone that we want to talk to, followed by your professional experience. You'll notice too that the format of this resume doesn't have a gigantic column on the right, like the old school Word resumes. So if you're using a formatted resume from Word, just adjust it, get your titles, get your content tucked up underneath your titles. Utilize the whole page and allow for some white space Why do we want white space on a resume?
It's easier on the eyes.
Yeah, it's a lot easier on the eyes. Just like newspapers, they have little columns, so your eyes don't have to track back and forth. You just read straight down, right? So it's a similar concept. Reduces eye fatigue. Lets someone gather a lot of information quickly. Someone have a question?
What would you say about applicant tracking systems?
Mm-hmm. What would you like to know about those?
Well, some people specifically encourage writing your resume to a specific system, like literally copying and pasting words from the job posting into your resume. I've heard the advice like you should actually just put it in, say, white font on a white sheet so that the computer reads certain keywords. But
Yeah, I've heard that.
So I've heard all kinds of conflicting advice about
It's
how to
trickery.
relate to those.
I think that's trickery and silly. I mean, you're trying to buck a system. You're trying to get through, having your resume select. I mean, if you pop for a bunch of words and then they read it and those words aren't there, it's just a click. It doesn't result in a job, right? Guys, we just want to be honest, forthright, right? Straightforward with the work that we've done. We want to own what we do. We want to own what we don't do. Yeah, no, I don't do that. I haven't done that. I'd be happy to learn. Or I don't want to learn that. I'm not a back-end guy. Not interested. Thank you. Right? So try to trick the systems I don't think makes sense. I think what does make sense is being honest. And we'll go into content here in just a minute so that you can take your good resume and make it great. We'll talk about that in just a second. I think just the language that you use and the ability to actually analyze and think about the work that you've done and to describe that in a positive way, how you're going to contribute to a client is the very best thing you can do. You don't want to butter up your resume with a bunch of keywords and technologies that you don't know, that you're not exposed to, that you wouldn't, if they sat you down or if they stood you up and said, okay, whiteboard how to create a button in JavaScript right now, let's see it. If you can't do that and you've got JavaScript button creation on here, it's probably not a good idea because now they're going to think that you're dishonest. Right? Or just unaware. Neither's good. Neither's hireable. Neither's a hireable skill set. Okay.
I have one more question actually.
Go ahead.
So I've also gotten conflicting advice about leading with a code school like certificate or as part of your education. I've also heard even from some code schools you should minimize the fact that is where your education came from. So I wonder what you would say to people who've done a code school as their kind of background.
I wouldn't minimize it. That's silly. They're going to find out, right? Don't tell them I've got brown hair. You know what I mean? I mean, unless you've been a developer for years and you've got a nice GitHub account, you can demonstrate all of this code that you know and all of this knowledge that you have. They're going to say, well, hey James, thanks for applying. That's really awesome that you worked at an umbrella store. But what makes you qualified for this job? Well, I went to code school for half a year, but I didn't want to tell you about it. You know what I mean? They're not tricked into thinking you've got a CS degree from Purdue. You know what I mean? That's going to be pretty apparent. So I would just tell them, yeah, this is a respected school. I mean, you guys are all here because you decided to, at some point in your adult life, you said, I want to do something different with my life, or I want to get a little bit better at something with my life, or I'm tired of doing this, and I want to have a life that includes this, whether it's because of the skill set that you get to work in, the idea that you get to build things and look at it and say, I made that, I helped build that, that's pretty awesome, right? But you want to earn more money. You want to provide for yourself and for your family and create more opportunities for yourself in a highly desirable, ever-growing industry. So, I mean, good job. You're here. You're doing it. Do well in school. Work hard here. Try to be the top in the class. Everyone here should try to be top of your class. Right? Don't try to be number 2. Don't try to be the worst one. Don't try to just eke by. If you're just trying to eke by and get this certificate and go out and then be a barista again, that doesn't make sense. Right? So you're here. Work hard and then try and work hard to get a job and then work hard in that job. Right? And so when you go home at 5 or 9 at night or whatever it is, right, you can feel good about it and the money will come. It will come. And people make great, there are people who make doctor money coding software. right? And they don't have doctor student loans. They don't have Purdue CS degree student loans either. So you could do very, very well, right? If you're bright and you apply yourself. Does that answer your question?
I was wondering what your opinion about having logos on the resume.
Hate them.
I had an HR guy tell me that the new resumes now has the logo of where you worked and then bullet points. And you kind of spread them across the page. It's a totally different looking resume.
Stupid.
And I didn't know what to say. He said,
Stupid.
"What's the new
It's just
logo?"
silly. It's not the new anything is dumb.
No,
No.
thank you.
No, you're welcome.
I want to change my resume.
No, I mean, save my printer ink. You know, like don't make me have to click another button and download all the images. It's just silly. I mean, some people do it. I've seen it. It's actually not a new thing. It's something that I saw a lot more 10 years ago than I do now. I wouldn't create a logo for yourself either. James, what's your last name? Lee. So J/L in a really cool font with a big circle around it, taking up about a quarter of the page. Don't do stuff like that, right? That's not anything. That's not newer than Vans and skinny jeans. That's just been done. You know what I'm saying? So like just have a normal resume, right? Something that's readable that you can send to a healthcare organization, that you could send to an ad agency. Something that just everyone's used to reading these formats, and their eyes can easily glean all the information that they need to quickly. That's what you want to do. Okay. Equations. Awesome. All right, so this is to your point. Okay, I'm going to go through a little example here, and when we're talking about the actual content under your experience, this is a formula that should help you be really successful in developing a very readable and interesting and impactful resume. Okay, probably most resumes that I read and have seen and that my staff reads, the experience in their resume looks like a job description. We were interviewing someone $120,000 a year project manager, and my division director for recruiting shared it with me, and I looked at it and I couldn't believe that this person, who's a good writer, had written this resume that basically looked like a job description. Tasked to blank, 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 blah, 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 blah. It just looked like a job description. It was not a success story. Okay? And your resumes need to be a success story. If there's a document that exists in the world that's probably going to make you more money than any other document you ever own, it's your resume. So you got to pay attention, right? Unless someone's got a really rich uncle and there's some deed hidden in some safety deposit box that's going to make you a multi-millionaire someday, this resume thing is serious business, all right? So I'll just tell you, I'd advise you to take notes or take pictures because you'll probably remember about 6% of this conversation, all right? So Q squared equals R. Qualify times quantify equals results. All right, I'm going to do this example, and then what's your name in the back, miss?
Arena.
Arena. Okay, then we're going to talk about your example that you used, which I thought was perfect and actually fit this model really well. Okay, so develop websites in PHP. So this is just an example of what we might see in a job description. Develop websites in PHP. Now we're going to qualify it and quantify it. Developed 4 websites in PHP for up-and-coming outdoor retailer. Okay, so we've got a number in there. Why are numbers good? Well, it quantifies, but why else? Think about your eyes.
They're similar, like they catch your eyes.
Yeah, it's symbolic language, so your eye moves to it and it's different. It actually hits a different part of your brain. It breaks it up and attracts your eye. So very good. Okay. So does everybody understand that we've quantified it with a number and we've qualified it? Because, okay, build websites for who? Up and coming outdoor retailers. Sweet. Now let's throw in the result. So develop 4 websites in PHP for up and coming outdoor I'm stepping on stuff. Whoops. For up and coming outdoor retailer. Initial project came in 20% under budget, resulting in, this is the result, resulting in additional requests for microsites and catalog modules. That translates to I did badass work and I got a bunch of money for my company. I'm worth my time and money, right? Does that make sense? Who's got questions about this? All right, can we share your example one more time? All right, go ahead and share it again.
So I managed a project for a company in Canada,
Yeah.
It was a research and development project. They needed money for the research, so I wrote a couple of government grants,
Yes.
and we were successful.
So managed a grant writing project for a Canadian company that does research, blah, 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 whatever, right?
Right, right.
I'm not minimizing, I'm just saying because I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Resulting in
$500,000.
$500,000 in grant money
Yeah.
to be put towards
The research.
the research of blank, right? So that's the full result. Did everybody understand that? She used a number, what she did, she explained it. So what I'm going to task each of you with when you're doing your resume, go through with a little fine-tooth comb, right? And each bullet point, if you cannot do this for that bullet point, just give it a little highlight, talk to your friends, maybe talk to a coworker that you worked with, and say, hey, how would you quantify this? What was the result of this? Because a lot of people do struggle. I don't know, I pumped gas. You know? But I promise you, you can come up with something for everything, right? I'm an apple picker. I pick apples, right? I pick 4 bushels of apples a day. I pick 4 bushels of apples a day, which is 10% more than the next apple picker. Right? You can put something to everything. You see, you just got to give it context. So I would do that. Give it a little highlight. If you cannot come up with something that has a result, then just take it off your resume. Because remember when I picked this thing up and I read through it super fast, you don't want them to waste those 15 seconds on information that's not going to help your cause. Does that make sense? Okay. Okay, success with phone interviews. Who here has had a phone interview? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, it's pretty good. It's about half the room or so. So, someone, what was your experience like? What was your experience like?
Well, it was with a really small startup.
Okay.
So it wasn't a good fit
Okay.
because I'm junior level.
Uh-huh.
But we had a really pleasant conversation,
Mhm.
and yeah, I would say it's positive.
It was positive?
Yeah.
Okay. What is the purpose of a phone screen?
To vet if you're able to work together, I guess.
It's to see if you make it to the next stage.
Right.
What's the next stage typically?
In person.
In-person interview, yeah. Resume gets you the phone call or the email. The phone call or the email gets you typically the phone call or the phone screen, right? You can get a phone call, but it's not a phone screen. It's just, hey, can you talk, set the time, right? Gets you the phone screen. Phone screen gets you the in-person interview. In-person interview gets you the job, right? So these phone screens need to be carefully managed, and you need to treat it seriously. Be punctual. Check your cell reception. Use a landline if you have to. Make sure it's quiet. I've done phone screens and I can hear The Price is Right. I'm no kid. The Price is, come on down in the background. I'm like, are you kidding me? Dude, Bob Barker on your phone call? It's crazy. So make sure the TV's off. Turn down the punk music. You know, don't be on the highway. That sort of thing. Just make sure it's nice and quiet and you can focus. Use notes and your resume. That means have your resume in front of you. Everyone here should have a copy of your resume close to you or on your phone that you can forward it easily on demand whenever you need to review it. I would have a physical printed copy because if you're on your phone, you can't look at your phone to look at your resume. Hey, tell me about your 3rd job down. Crap. You know. Hey, what was the date that you left such and such company? If you can't remember that, have your resume in front of you, right? And all of those awesome points that you spent the weekend, Memorial Day weekend, going over your resume. I'm telling you to work on your weekend. But, but all of those great points, the Q squared equals R, that'll all be right in front of you, right? And it's just like little notes that help you along, like little interview notes. Okay, take notes. Unlike almost all of you today, very disappointed, by the way. Does everyone here have notepads? Yeah. 4 people have notepads, and that's probably not good enough, all right? So just stop trusting yourself. I know you guys are young and smart, and you've got these flexible minds, and you can probably recall way better than I can, but I'm telling you, it's not going to be good enough in the job market. Okay? You must get into the habit of attending meetings with a notebook, coming to conferences, coming to sessions like this with a notepad, right? And writing down the things that you hear, or at least the things that you want to remember, and then going home and applying that information so that you can have a better result in your life. It's just not enough sometimes to show up to the class, right? It's what you do after the class and with all the information that you learn. So take notes on your phone call, take notes in your in-person interview as well. Speak clearly and smile. Why do we want to smile when we're talking sometimes?
Because you can hear it.
Yeah, you can hear it. Now, someone else has to speak up other than her, all right?
My story.
No, you're great. You're great. You're a joy. I've got a good friend of mine. He runs a law firm. I've known him since he was 20. And now he's got this big fancy law firm. He does great. And he is the most chill dude you've ever met. And when he's on the phone, it's like he's got a foot in the grave. No offense if he ever watches it. A little bit. He wouldn't mind. He wouldn't mind. The reality is when you talk to him, you're like, hey, buddy, how you doing? Hey, Josh. How you doing? Things are good. Man, when you're on the phone and you talk like that, it's like, hello, come on, dude, what's up? Come on, like I gotta go. Dude, I'm on lunch break, I'm between calls, like what's going on? So just know that the phone will kill your spirit and energy. It just is something about the satellites and the speakers and all this other stuff. It just takes it, it'll suck it right out of you. So if you're on a phone call, breathe deep, speak clearly. That means speak loudly. Now, you don't have to talk like this, right? But you might want to project more like this, right? So that it doesn't get lost. You also want to smile because there's a big difference in someone talking like this and someone talking like this, and you can actually hear it. So if I smile the whole time that I do this conversation, maybe I should do that. I'm sorry if I haven't. But if you smile more while you're talking, I promise you it will come across. Who wants to hang out with joyful people? Okay. Anyone want to hang out with not joyful people? Because I might have a job for you. I'm just kidding. So for real, like people want to hang out with people who are happy. You know, that's just the deal. There's a lot of science behind happiness, and I don't know if you guys have listened to podcasts about this or watched shows about this, but the thing is, a lot of people want to be successful so they can be happy, right? But the reality is happy people are successful people. It's the reverse. And so even if you're not super happy, just fake it till you make it. And science even shows if you smile, if you force a fake smile, your body will inform your mind that you're happy, and then your body releases all of these happy chemicals inside of you, endorphins and serotonin and things like that. Okay, so you can actually fake it till you make it, which is, I think, super sweet. In fact, and this is a side note, but there's science behind this. It works the same with fear. That if someone gets surprised by a bear, they look at the bear, they're not actually scared, but something in your head knows bears are bad and dumps a bunch of adrenaline in your body, and as soon as your body feels that chemical, now you're like, I'm scared, bear, right? But it's actually not the visual thing of the bear. It's your body's chemicals informing you. So your body can tell your body how to feel, right? Which is why, I don't know if you guys have ever seen like the TED Talk about doing power poses. Yeah, you're like doing this stuff, the chin up and getting your energy up. But that stuff's real, Right, Google power posing TED Talks, you'll find it. Okay, follow up. Yeah. Hey, thanks so much for the conversation today. Looking forward to the next steps. Please let me know if there's anything else that I can share with you to help you make a good and informed decision about meeting with me. Something like that? Yeah? In-person job interview. Who here thinks that they're good at interviewing? You are? Okay, well, what do you think you do that helps you to be a good interviewer?
I interviewed a lot. I mean, it feels a little more natural now.
Okay.
But just being aware of what they want and showing what you have that fits that, I guess.
Okay, very good. So you developed more confidence with more practice?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay,
At
and
first
you,
it wasn't like that,
yeah, it takes a little bit of time, right?
Yeah.
So what's something everybody in this room could do to help themselves feel more confident?
I approach interviews at least as much as I can by trying to take the mental attitude of, like, I already have this job,
Yes,
and I'm just going to explain to these people, like, after the fact why I got it.
I love
So it's already
that.
kind of like settled. And so then it just reduces some tension, and it
Yes.
just seems like things go better that way.
Absolutely. That is one of the greatest tricks in the world, that fake it till you make it thing. It's very real. And the power of the mind to, again, inform your body about how you should behave, and whether your palms get sweaty or you start to stutter or you talk really fast or you can't think of your answers. So I think that's a great suggestion, and I haven't heard that in any of these speeches before, so thank you for sharing that. I'm definitely going to pass that on. I actually do that myself, but with other things. I think thoughts like, my kid's college education is paid, the deck is built already, like things like that, and then I feel a lot better and I can go have a drink. So that's great. Also, practice. What's your name?
Kyle.
Kyle. So Kyle had lots of practice, and with practice, he gained confidence. Just like when you're coding, the more you code, the more practice you get, the more confident you are that this is what you type, and it makes it do this, right? So, same idea. I encourage everyone here to practice interviewing. But let's start up at the top. Okay, so in-person interview, you're going to show up a little bit early. You're not going to show up 30 minutes early. That's weird. You know, we have people come by. It's like, hey, Josh, your appointment's here. I'm like, it's not for 25 minutes. Like, there's a coffee shop downstairs. I mean, why are you here?
You were like exactly 10 minutes early today.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. You're welcome. Okay, your appearance. Guys, software development, you typically don't have to wear a suit and a tie to most organizations. If you're going to go interview at a financial organization or at a law firm or something like that, absolutely throw on the big duds, throw on the fancy dress, whatever you want to do. But for the most part, you get to relax. You get to, a button-up shirt, slap. Just make sure your clothes are pressed, right? Your shoes are decent. Your clothes are pressed. You washed your hair. You don't smell too funny, right? You brushed your teeth. You're like, yeah, Josh, I know. No, trust me. Some people don't smell so good. If you smoke, quit. I know that's easier said than done. But for real, if you smoke, quit. Right? People who come in and smoke, who smell like smoke on interviews, don't do as well. And it doesn't matter that I smoked for years. It doesn't matter that you can't smell it. You can't smell it because you're a smoker, right? I remember when I quit smoking, I don't know, 15 years ago. I'd quit for a few weeks, and then I picked up this sweater of mine, and I was like, oh my God, that's terrible. I actually thought my armpits didn't smell. No kidding. But they do. So for real, guys, if you smoke, my recommendation is quit. If you can't quit, do that vaping thing or something. But don't go into an interview smelling and reeking like cigarettes. Okay, that's a massive turnoff in the modern day world. It's frowned upon socially. It's legal. It's your right. It's your body. Do whatever you want. But just telling you, it's an indication that maybe you don't make the best decisions for yourself. Okay. And again, that is not. I'm not harping on anyone. If you are a smoker, again, I smoked for 20 years. All right. So it's all right. But that's my recommendation. Okay, so grooming, comb your hair, whatever, right? Go easy on the perfume and the cologne, especially as we get older. We lose our sense of smell, okay? So if I'm interviewing people over 50 and they come in and they can't, they're like, oh, I can't, oh yeah, now I can smell it, right? But, the 30-year-old who's interviewing you is like, oh my God. Environmental disorder, so just be careful on the cologne. I'd probably just stick to whatever your shampoo smells like and call it a day. All right. Take off your coat and your backpack. Probably don't, you don't want to wear your leather coat and dump your backpack on the table. or your big handbag and your purse and your backpack. Go easy. Just tuck it under the floor, take off your coat, get comfortable, get relaxed, smile, firm handshakes. You don't have to crank down on it. And especially for the ladies, I've noticed this new trend. It's not as many women in technology as there are men. Everyone knows that, right? Okay. So for the ladies, you don't have to have a man's grip on your handshake. You know, you just don't have to do that. I've seen that a lot lately. It's like, okay, you're strong. Okay. All right. You just get to be yourself and just a nice, warm, friendly greeting and handshake, whatever you're comfortable with. All right. Yeah, show interest. Definitely research the company. What's a great way to research a company? Who's got some ideas?
Their website.
Yeah, their website. Absolutely. And how much of the website should you read?
A lot of it.
A lot of it. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else? What's another thing that you can click on to learn more about them?
They have like an events page on Facebook or something like that.
Yeah, events page on Facebook. You can look at them on LinkedIn. You can type them into Google and click news. I talked to a client of mine, massive company. They've got, they own about 200 advertising agencies, and they're a strategic client of ours. And I had a meeting with a vice president of theirs out in New York, and he said, "Well, I'm sure you know what's going on here, Josh." No? Oh, you didn't see in the paper this morning? And it was like this massive article about a big shakeup, and maybe I should have clicked Google, type in the company, click news. Boom, it'll pop right up. Okay, so that's just a quick, easy way of staying up to date, showing your interest, you're on top of current events. You can link up with the interviewer on LinkedIn if you want to, right? Or at least go and check out their page. Like, oh, you went to Tech Academy too. Right? Maybe they did. You don't know. So it's perfectly acceptable to do that. When you do that, if you're going to look at someone on LinkedIn and then not friend them, that's considered rude, I think. So, and a lot of people can see who looked at them. So if you're going to look at them, maybe you're not logged in and you pull them up and you can see some information. And then if you want to connect with them, then you can be logged in and look at them on LinkedIn and then connect with them. Does that make sense? It's like online manners. So. All right, have confidence in yourself and your experience. There's a really great way to have confidence. We already talked about two things, right? And one of them, which was my suggestion, was what? Kyle did it a lot. What is it? What?
Practice.
Practice, and she didn't even write it down. It's awesome. Exactly, practice. So here's how we're going to practice. Can we go ahead and go to the next page? I don't know what's on the next page. Let's find out.
Find out together.
Oh yeah, type of interview question. Yeah, this is perfect. So we're going to practice answering interview questions. So there are some really basic core groupings of interview questions. History lessons. This is what I do, this is what I've done, right? Why are you good? This is why I'm a badass and why you should hire me. This is what I love about myself. What should we be worried about? What would you improve? What would others say about you that you could do better? What's something that you regret? These types of questions. Did you care enough to research us? Yes. And click the news, and looked at the events page, and looked at the website and everything else. Can you think on your feet? These are behavioral types questions. Behavioral type questions. So James, tell me about a time when you had to make an ethical decision on the job. Yeah. So that's normal. That's exactly what I would say. But the reality is you're going to get hit with these things, and they're just going to want to know, like, can you take the artillery that's coming at you? Can you think on your feet? Right? These are things that you can practice. You can know this stuff in advance by carefully trying to recall and recollect and apply a lot of these questions to your work history already, right? We just kind of go through life, and we don't often reflect on specific events that happen in our life unless it was traumatic or deeply impactful. But we're not going to run into all that stuff all the time with these questions, right? We're not going to be talking about trauma, right? We're not going to be talking about some amazing thing. It's about how did you do this? How did you handle this piddly little situation on the job? So for that sort of thing, we absolutely have to practice. Okay, are you boring? Some of you might be boring. It's possible. I don't know. But the reality is you definitely don't want to demonstrate that you're boring. Okay. So when I've interviewed people for my team, what do you do for fun? Oh, just normal stuff. Okay, yeah. Like what? Watch TV. Yeah, we like to watch TV. Right on. What else? Yeah, hang out with friends and stuff. Okay then. Very nice to meet you. Now I know that this person's going to have a hard time connecting with a lot of people because there's not much to talk about with this person. There's nothing wrong with watching TV. I watch TV sometimes. Jeopardy, things like that, whatever. Westworld. But the reality is like that's not going to be the topic of discussion all the time. So do you have a hobby? Do you have an interest? What's something that you've achieved outside of the office or the work environment? Have you ever volunteered on something? Do you have a niece that you take care of that you like to spend time with? I mean, like, you can talk about whatever your interests are, but how you like to spend your time. And however you spend your time is how you spend your time, but just be prepared to talk about it, in a deeper way and in a way that helps you connect with people, right? Has everyone here heard of Common Ground? Common Ground, you just find things that you have in common, right? So Hannah, what's something you like to do? What do you do for fun?
I watch a lot of theater.
Do you? Okay, so you go to plays?
Mm-hmm.
All right, do you prefer like comedic or tragic?
I guess I prefer comedic.
Okay.
But I think that when comedy can be played like within a tragedy, that's ideal. Like real life humor. So it's like a dramatic play, but then there's humor in the reality of it. Yeah.
Sure. And so who's your favorite playwright?
Probably Arthur Miller.
Okay, yeah, I actually met him once.
Really?
Yes, he lived in my little town in
That's
Connecticut.
super cool.
Yep, he came and spoke at my high school in my little English class.
My first speaking part in a play ever was All My Sons by
Okay,
Arthur Miller.
awesome. Cool. We have common ground. See how that works? You just kept asking until there's something I can latch onto. I actually don't go to a lot of theater. I mean, I actually like Broadway musicals. I don't really enjoy going to plays that much. My wife does, but it's just not my thing. But I know Arthur Miller, and I've met him, and he was one of my teacher's really close friends, and all this other stuff. So now we have something that we can connect on, right? So you want to be able to go down that rabbit hole with someone long enough to hopefully find that common ground, right? Okay, how self-aware are you? Who here knows? All right, I'm going to ask everyone a question here. I want you to all think, imagine that all of the people that care about you are in one room, and they're locked up in that room. These could be friends, coworkers, they could be students, they could be family members, boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife. Okay, and none of them can leave that room until they all agree on the one thing that if you changed would improve your life the most. What would that be? Just take a minute and really think about this. Now, I love this question. I wrote this question like 10 years ago because it forces you to think about how others perceive you. Not how one person perceives you, but all the people who care about you, right? And can you come up, what can you answer that, right? If it's, they would say that I could type faster. No. Maybe your mom would say that, or your coworker, or your boss would say that, but they're not all going to agree that you should type faster, right? I would spend some time with this question and think about it, and then think about how you can utilize that information to either tackle that or somehow spin that or utilize that when you are asked the question about self-awareness. Some people that I've interviewed, maybe 2 in my life, have said, nope, nothing, nope, no one would say anything, nope, bye-bye, right? I actually interviewed a guy, and he said, he thought carefully about it, and he said, you know what, Josh, probably my temper. I said, okay, well, tell me about that. He said, well, I haven't had any issues for 5 years, but I used to have a temper, and people would do this, and it would make me really upset, and I'd have sharp words, and I'd snap at them. And he explained it all to me, and I placed him, and that was 3.5 years ago, and he's still at that job now, right? He was very self-aware. He could explain it, he could describe it, he was authentic, and he was honest, right? So if you're going to say temper, just so you know, if you're going to say temper,
Respectful.
just make sure that it's been fixed 5 years ago, okay? It's not last week. So, but the reality is this guy was self-aware. I respected that. Right? This person's looking at themselves, able to make improvements. I would say most people here are probably pretty self-aware because you all determined that you wanted to do something different in your life, and then you did that. Right? So you knew that you wanted to make a change. So you're probably already there, but now you have to demonstrate that. And it's usually in that question that's somewhere along the lines of, you know, what do you need to improve, or what would your boss say that you could have done differently, or what's the worst thing about yourself? And just a little bit of psychological insight for you if you're having trouble with this self-awareness thing. I want everyone to think about the thing that they're really great at. And I don't mean like drumming, right, or Fortnite, okay? I mean, like, what's a quality that you have? Like, oh, I'm really honest, or I'm really loyal, or I'm very friendly, right? And now take that quality and maximize it to the point of a disadvantage or a liability, okay? So if you're really friendly, then maybe you can't stop talking at work and bothering everybody, and you're preventing people from getting their work done because you're so friendly and talking all the time, right? Or maybe you're really honest to the point where you injure people's feelings, but you feel justified because I'm honest. I'm just being honest. I always tell my kids, just doesn't justify, right? So think if you're having trouble with that self-awareness thing, you can use the opposite of one of your best qualities. And you probably just maximize it too much and it becomes a liability. So that's a little, I don't usually talk about this stuff in these things, but it's just something that you can think about for yourself, for your own improvement, and as you go out there in the world of interviewing. Okay, all right, can we go to the next slide, please? Okay, so let's just take a picture of this, and we can even kill the lights and snap a picture if that's easier real quick. Or just take a picture, and I'll get the slide to you. So what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? Describe yourself. Why should we hire you? Where do you see yourself in 5 to 10 years? Someone says, hey, where do you see yourself in 2 years? Don't say, well, running my own company, developing physical therapy software if you're interviewing at a physical therapy software company, right? Be careful. Why are you interested in working for us? What is the name of our CEO? Why was there a gap in your employment? This sort of thing. Tell me about a time when you disagreed with your boss. That's a good one. So I would go through these history lessons and everything from the prior page, and here's what you do. You write down those questions, and you sit down at your computer, and you type out the answers. Just answer them. And go to sleep and wake up and read it. And go, ugh, and then edit it, right? And type it out again. And then read it out loud with a stopwatch. See if you can keep that response to 20 seconds or less, right? One-word answers aren't good in interviews. An answer with a short example explaining your one-word answer is acceptable. Do you have experience with blah, blah, blah? Yes, I do have experience. I have 6 months. I used it here. This was the result of my experience with that. Boom. Right? Okay. Once you've typed all that stuff out and you've read it all out loud, Hannah and I were just talking about this technique. It's called hyperclocking. What you don't want to do is sound over-rehearsed. And she asked a great question. Can someone sound canned or over-rehearsed with these responses? And the answer is, yeah, you can if you practice it the wrong way, right? So my recommendation is, first of all, these are just your words. So type out the answers, edit them, spend a couple days, let it breathe, right? Read it out loud, record yourself, listen to it back. This is critical. Has anyone here ever watched American Idol? No?
Yes.
Yeah, some people have. Okay, well, for those of you who don't, it's the singing competition, and part of why the show was famous is because they spent about 2 months showing people who are terrible singers. And haha, aren't they funny, and everybody laughs at them. That's really the deal, right? It's like the first month or two. Okay, there's a lack of awareness of what they sound like and what they're singing. They're like, oh, it's terrible. I'm not a good singer, but I'm not going on a singing competition. Right? I know because I've heard myself sing, like on a recording. It's not good. So record yourself. You don't have to have the most mellifluous voice or anything like that, but you just need to know that the words that you're saying sound natural, sound normal. Now you want to read it really fast, 5 to 10 times. Now go faster, faster and faster and faster. It's called hyperclocking. Okay? And you do that because it's going to ingrain the answer in your mind without imparting all of the inflection and tempo and timing and volume and tone that comes during natural conversation. And that's how you don't sound canned. It's how you sound informed and knowledgeable without sounding canned. Does that make sense? All right. The interview is it's your last chance, right? No one closes the job with their thank you letter. That's just a nice to have, right? Okay, this is the big deal. You got the interview, don't blow it, right? So practice, 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 practice. And if you're going to spend however many thousands of dollars it costs and however many hundreds of hours it takes to come here and learn to code, and you don't take 2 or 3 hours to practice this, then you're just silly people, right? Don't be a silly person. This is it. This is the point where the education meets the future experience in the career. It's this tiny little point, and you can miss it, and some people miss it forever. I know people who've gotten wonderful educations and they cannot land a job, and after 5 or 10 interviews or 15 or 20 or 30 interviews, they are bitter, bitter people, and they blame the world. That is not the case. You all deserve a great job. You all deserve a wonderful career. Apply yourself, keep up with everyone, take notes, work hard, be friendly, be kind, right? And practice some of the stuff you've learned today. Your resume, your interview, that interview. I mean, some of you guys, people get into software development usually not because they're extroverts and just want to like hang out with people all the time, right? I mean, for me, cranking out symbolic language all day long, oh my God, I'd be asleep in 10 minutes. Honest to God, I would. It'd kill me. It would freaking kill me. Terrible. I'd quit. I wouldn't do it, okay? But each of you has demonstrated a capacity and an interest and an ability, right, and a desire and probably a talent to code and to be a developer, right? So no one's expecting everyone here to maybe have the level of confidence that Kyle has demonstrated, because it takes confidence just to say, I have confidence, right? That's proof. He just proved it, right? If you can, so you don't have to be that. You don't have to be anyone other than yourself, all right? For real, you don't have to be anyone other than yourself. But you do have to be articulate and interested and curious and be able to describe what's good about you, right? And if you struggle with that, then practice and find help and find tricks and techniques to get better and better. And you will. You will. Absolutely. One of the things I love about my job as a manager and a coach and a trainer of recruiters and sales staff is watching them come in, no experience, maybe a little bit, and then seeing how they progress, right? I had a couple rookies of the year on my staff. That's out of 1,000 people. You know, it's pretty awesome to see people just blossom. Don't expect it to all happen tonight or this weekend or by Tuesday. Just apply yourself a little bit every day, all right? And you guys will rock it. And the world needs developers. I mean, we can't hire enough. It's like 1-2% unemployment right now for software developers and engineers. And you don't need a CS degree, okay? And you don't need to be connected up the hill, and you don't need to be the most outgoing person. But you do need to have a LinkedIn profile, a GitHub account, an education, and a desire to apply yourself, and a smile when you interview. Okay? All right. Is that it for slides? I don't know. Maybe we might be done. Let's check it out. Oh yeah, lay off the weed. Did I say that already?
No, you said that in the podcast though. You and I talked about it.
Yeah. All right. So some of you are probably high right now. Everyone looked at you. Why? Just teasing. So the deal is this. It's legal in Oregon, but a lot of the companies that you might interview for are national companies, and they will not have people who, they have drug testing. Right? Medical companies, financial organizations, even like MSPs, like there's a ton of different companies, and I think the number's right around 80% are doing background checks and drug screens. That's a lot. So the world's adjusting a little bit, but it hasn't adjusted fast enough. I really don't care if you smoke weed at all, but I do care that you don't shoot yourself in the foot and prevent yourself from getting into some really good companies. And a lot of people that I talked to, and smart developers over the years, have said, hell no, I'm not going to piss in a cup for anybody and screw that company. And people have walked away from $100,000 jobs. And it's just the dumbest thing, because they could get the job and go home and smoke if they wanted to, if they can lay off for 2 to 4 weeks, right? So just, I don't know, enjoy a whiskey or something. Like, just do something. But just lay off the weed when you're in the job market, guys. Just for a little while, okay? It's just not good for you in the job market. Probably helpful for you a little bit after that. All right. Okay, quick recap. Power posing, social media, clean that up, resume makeover. Oh yeah, I didn't really talk about this. Let me jump. I'm glad I saw this because I sort of skipped over it. When we were looking at that resume, you guys have been very patient. I'll get out of your hair in a minute. When we're looking at that resume, prime real estate is page 1. All right, and I want to make sure that you guys dedicate the right amount of information for the length of time that you're on a job for when that job was, right? So if you have this much information for a 3-month job 5 years ago, and you have this much information for your most recent job that was 3 years long, that's not cool. That doesn't make sense, all right? So adjust the depth of information for how many years or how much time you've spent on a job and for how recent it is, right? You can have that much information or half a page of information for a job that you had for 6 years, that's your most recent job, right? And you could have worked somewhere for 10 years, but left that job 10 years ago, and it should just be a tiny little piece because it's not nearly as relevant as your most recent work, particularly with the pace technologies movement. Okay, does everyone understand that? Okay, what that means is as you progress through your career, because I'm not going to be seeing you every single year, right? As you progress through your career and you add a new job onto your resume, don't stop there. Go to your other jobs and delete a couple bullet points off of each of them. Does that make sense? Okay. All right, I think I've got time for questions. Is that it? Let's double check. Oh, all right. I did a good job. Okay, who has questions? Yes.
So I know we talked about this a little bit, but a common interview question that I think a lot of people struggle with is talking about your worst qualities.
Mm-hmm.
And I always feel like the recommendation is to do like a humble brag type of thing where it's like not really a flaw, like I care too much type of thing.
Yeah, I don't like those.
And
yeah.
I don't like it either, and I don't really know what the alternative is, because of course you want to present yourself in the best light, but it seems to be a common question.
Well, okay, so that is a really good topic to bring up. Let's talk about it for a minute. So the humble brag, it's just how do I put it? It's just like,
Yeah.
I'm a perfectionist. I care too much. Like all that stuff. You know, I work too hard. Like, yeah, definitely avoid that. What you definitely want to do is think about a quality that you have overcome. Right? You can make it a success story. Right? So you could say, you know, I've been told that I sometimes care too much, and I'm not doing a brag here because it's affected me negatively, and here's how it affected me negatively. I would get really upset when other team members weren't working as hard as I was, and I felt resentment towards them. And what I learned to do was to just be honest and open with them and say, hey guys, I'm feeling frustrated because we have a lot of work to accomplish, and I don't feel like everybody is as enthusiastic as me, and that's okay. But I just wanted to let all of you know how I'm feeling right now if I'm coming off a little bit edgy. Or something like that. That might not be a perfect answer, but it's at least an opportunity to highlight how you've managed a situation where that quality came up. Let's do this for a minute. Who's got a negative quality that they would like to share? Yes?
I've always struggled with indecisiveness.
Okay.
Just like paralysis through options.
Okay. All right. And so how has that affected you negatively?
I mean, for a long time, it just kind of would make me feel as if I wasn't accomplishing anything in my life because I would take too long to make a decision to actually take the action and move forward. And that's something I've been working on the last couple of years, which is why I'm here actually.
Oh, good. Good for you.
I made the decision to switch careers. So.
Terrific. That's excellent. Okay. So that's a really great example. Indecisiveness is a sign of someone who's a perceiver. For those of you who don't know it, I'm referring to something called Myers-Briggs, and everyone here can jump on, type in Myers-Briggs type indicator and take a free test, and it'll describe, after about 40 or 50 questions, you can get kind of a sense of a personality profile, and it's quite shocking how accurate some of the information can be. So someone who prefers to gather information rather than make a decision is called a perceiver. And if you really struggle with it, then you would be very high. The benefits of being a perceiver are you are often really good at looking at things from a lot of different perspectives. Would you say that's the case?
Yes.
Yeah. You can put yourself in other people's shoes. Yeah. So you can talk about, say, hey, look, I know I can be somewhat indecisive. That's not a great quality, but it comes with some benefits because it does allow me to position myself and put myself in other people's shoes and analyze the problem from a lot of different situations rather than shoot first, ask questions later. Right? So you can talk about it in that way. And then the other thing that you can do is you can just talk about how you're working on it, right? So I think that's really good. The opposite of that is a judge, or I'm a judge, or I feel more comfortable after a decision is made. That's all it means, okay? That's the difference between indecisiveness and decisiveness. Is I want the decision to be made so I can move on, but sometimes that means you make decisions quickly and people's feelings get hurt, or maybe you didn't make the right path, okay? So you can just talk about that. I'm working, what I've done is instead of I'm working on it, say, what I've done is I've recognized that is it the 3 Ps or the 4 Ps? You put something off and then you become paralyzed. No, I know what it is. Sorry. Okay, I think it's the 4 Ps. So I'm indecisive at times, and what I learned was the 4 Ps. Have you ever heard of that?
I have not.
Okay, so first you're putting something off. I'm putting the decision off. All right, and next thing I know, I'm procrastinating on that decision. And by procrastinating too much, I become paralyzed. And that's a terrible place to be. Nothing's going to get done. And I've learned that the only way to get out of that procrastination paralysis is to produce. I just think of Nike's Just Do It, and I just do it. It doesn't feel good, but it feels really good once it's done. Right? So you can talk about things like that. You can actually Google indecisiveness and learn some of these things. So at least you can talk about it effectively. And you can always say things like, this is more my home life, not really my work life.
It does. It's mostly like outside of work. At work, I'm usually very decisive. It's
Perfect.
Outside, making life decisions.
And that's not a bad spin, to recognize a negative quality and say, but that's mostly outside of work. Okay. Who's got another question? Yes.
Pertaining to how much real estate on your resume your past job should be, what if you're trying to get back into a field that you worked in about 15 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
So those jobs that you had technically would be more relevant now than maybe a job you had last year.
Yeah.
So how do you adjust the real estate
your career summary up at the top is really where you're going to describe that, and then cover letters and emails. You know, I possess 15 years of project management experience. I'm interested in applying that skill set to, I'm interested in applying that skill set now to the world of software development. Here's what I've done to try and go down that path. And if your work is not super relevant, those descriptions of your work do not have to be particularly long. You just kind of get to the meat of it. And maybe talk about the qualities that you applied in that role that can help you in your new roles. Okay, we've got time for one more question. And I got to buzz out. Yes?
For those of us that are looking at entry-level positions, are recruiters even interested?
Not as many. Okay, that's the truth. Not as many. And the reason is recruiters get paid by a client, right? And it's a lot easier to find someone who doesn't have much experience you know, why are they going to pay me X thousands of dollars to identify someone that they might be able to identify through a Craigslist posting for $50, right? That doesn't mean you shouldn't work with recruiters or that you shouldn't engage with them. There's a lot of people in the market here that I've worked with 15 years ago who are now leaders in their field, who were very junior developers when I met them, and we're still in touch, and we still have, I mean, some of them work a block from here, and they run massive meetup organizations in software development, and they were just itty-bitty junior developers, right? But I liked them, and we stayed in touch and followed each other's careers and have helped each other along the way in a lot of respects. So I would still engage. And you can just ask them, I'm a junior developer, is there any way that I can work with you or come in and meet with you? And at least you can get some practice interviewing. But usually if you don't have about a year or more of experience, it's a little bit tougher. I'm just speaking for my organization. I'm not going to speak for another group. But it's a little bit tough. It's a little bit tough. But doing internships, when you get out of here, do projects. Like make your own stuff, guys. Build websites, build apps, just do it. Go home and build stuff, make things. That is a massive indicator of someone who's highly hireable. Yeah.
Well, that leads me to another question. Like on my resume, I've got 3 projects on there on my resume, but I didn't see a section of that on the resume you had up on the screen.
Well, those projects would necessarily be within the scope of someone's work experience, typically. Yeah. But because your projects are school-based, it'd be under your educational heading. Does that make sense?
I have them all separate.
Oh, they're separate.
Live apps. But
okay, cool. So they're your own apps. You built them. Do they produce money?
No.
Okay. So they're just projects that you worked on. Do you have links to them?
Mm-hmm.
Great. Yeah, just include that. Okay. Personal projects. Okay. Thank you, guys.
Thank you
so
much.
Nice to be here. Thanks, Anna. Thank you. Perfect. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm so used to like walking around and walking in the crowd and everything. It's hard for me to stand still in front of the camera. And you guys, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn if you want. That'll help you connect with a lot of other people too. So you just Google me, Josh Matthews Portland, and I'll come right up. I think it's like /Josh Matthews on LinkedIn. Got in early. Okay.
Thanks for taking the time.
You're welcome. Nice to meet you guys. Good luck to you. Take care. Thank you for your contributions today.
You're welcome. I talked to him.
Oh, you're good. Oh, yeah, that's very good.